Kazuhiro Kitase's wildest dream turns real when the elf girl from his fantasy world wakes up right next to him. Our story opens on a serene bridge lined with cherry blossoms. As our protagonist strolls across, he ponders how everyone has at least one mysterious side. Some folks look gorgeous but sing like a drowning cat, others stay skinny despite devouring buffets, and then there are those who aren't exactly eye candy but still manage to snag dates left and right. As for our man on the bridge, well, his quirk is a whole other level. Meet Kazuhiro Kitase. By day, he's a typical office drone who refuses to work a second past quitting time. Everyone else might climb the corporate ladder or bar hop after hours, but Kazuhiro's true passion is sleeping. Seriously, the man lives to snuggle under the covers and drift off, but not just for beauty rest. He's got a dream world to explore. In his sleep, he's off battling monsters, exploring hidden ruins, and sometimes running for his life instead of his next promotion. One dream, while washing his face in a crystal-clear river, he notices he hasn't aged a day. Apparently, dream skincare is better than any face cream. Suddenly, a pointy-eared girl named Mariabelle appears. She's an elf with amethyst eyes, over 100 years old, and way too sassy for her own good. She teases Kazuhiro about his primitive lifestyle in this dream realm and jokes that he looks more elven than she does. He tries to laugh it off, explaining that his name here is Kazuhiro, thanks to a childhood typo when he first created this dream persona. To smooth things over, Kazuhiro invites Mariabelle to explore the ancient Nizal ruins. Naturally, she wonders what kind of human would find that romantic, but he bribes her with the promise of snacks, proving that no one else or otherwise can resist free grub. The Nizal ruins, once a thriving underground city, now lie deserted and wrapped in mystery. Legend has it a deadly virus caused the downfall of this magical civilization, though Kazuhiro is skeptical that a mere bug could topple a society so advanced. Still, his main focus is hanging out with Mariabelle, not solving a historical whodunit. Inside the ruins, Mariabelle flexes her magical skills by casting a spell that summons glowing spirits to light their way. Kazuhiro, meanwhile, is equal parts impressed by her power and thrilled at the companionship. Sure, the place is ancient and maybe cursed, but hey, at least he's got a feisty elf by his side. Needing a break, Kitase finds a spot for a snack. Mariabelle's eyes light up like a kid on Christmas when she opens the lunchbox. Without hesitation, she dives in and devours the sushi and inari Kitase packed. Between bites, she declares that joining him on this trip was the best decision ever. But just as things seem peaceful, someone lurking in the shadows spies on their little picnic. After eating, Mariabelle brushes off Kitase's casual suggestion of doing this again. She proudly proclaims she's always busy studying witchcraft, though somehow she still finds time to hang out with him. Suddenly, her sharp elf senses kick in and she yanks Kitase back just in time to spot a monster armed to the teeth. Kitase, ever the reckless dreamer, charges at the creature full speed. Mariabelle freaks out, but her panic turns to confusion when the lizard monster greets Kitase instead of attacking him. Turns out, the two are old pals. Or something like that. The lizard, jealous of Kitase hanging out with Mariabelle, gets straight to the point. Kitase assures him she's only here for the food. Mariabelle, clueless about their exchange because they're chatting in the monster's language, is stunned to learn Kitase can speak lizard. He explains he got attacked so many times that learning their language felt like a survival skill. The lizard warns them about a dragon deep within the ruins. It's mating season, so the beast's mood is about as friendly as a hangry Karen. Kitase, ever the optimist, jokes about wanting to see the dragon's eggs, but Mariabelle knows better. Dragons during mating season don't do friendly. As they venture deeper, Mariabelle casts a night vision spell on Kitase so he can finally see the massive dragon snoozing in the dark. Its radiant scales give off mana so strong it could power a whole city. Mariabelle realizes it's an arcane dragon, a rare creature that only shows up once every 1,000 years. Unfortunately, her loud whispering wakes the dragon, and it is not happy. As the dragon roars to life, Kitase suggests the reasonable thing, running for their lives. But before they can escape, a gate slams shut, trapping them inside. The dragon spews a massive wave of fire, engulfing the room. As Kitase faces his flaming demise, he can't help but regret not checking out those dragon eggs first. Next thing he knows, Kitase wakes up safe in his bed in Japan, What a weird dream, right? Except there's a suspicious bulge under his blanket. Pulling it back, he's shocked to find Maribel, yes, the elf from his dream, sleeping next to him. And she's very real. Staring at the ceiling, Kitase wonders how she got here and why. When Maribel wakes up, still groggy, she casually notes that he looks older than usual. Before he can explain, she screams upon realizing she's naked. Wrapping herself in his blanket, she demands Kitase find her some clothes. So now Kitase, still bewildered, spends his day off shopping for women's clothes. As he questions everything about his dream world, Maribel is busy marveling at modern Tokyo. She's convinced Kitase must be rich to live in such a big building and is blown away by the sight of the Skytree Tower. Kitase explains it's a tourist spot and suggests visiting during Sakura season for the view. When she asks what sakuras are, Kitase decides it's better to show her in person. But before they head out, the elf, in her usual clumsy charm, accidentally drops her blanket while hugging him to thank him for the adventure ahead. Once she's dressed, Kitase gives her a hat to hide her ears. After all, Japan doesn't exactly have an elf population. While he's still wondering if he somehow brought her here by accident, maybe the dragon's fire had something to do with it, Maribel is excited to explore this new world. That is, until she gets into a car for the first time and loses her cool. Modern transportation isn't for everyone, apparently. After some minor car trauma, they arrive at a restaurant. Kitase orders food and Maribel begins grilling him about how and why she ended up in Japan. She remembers nothing after the arcane dragon attack, except that Kitase seems older here. The boy, equally clueless, admits he's trying to figure it out too. Then he drops the bomb. He might be traveling between worlds in his sleep. He explains that what he thought was just a dream is actually real, and somehow Maribel got caught up in it, probably because of their close call with the dragon. Maribel freaks out thinking she's dead, but Kitase assures her that she's alive and should be able to return to her world if she sleeps in this one. She's not convinced, but the arrival of food instantly distracts her. Priorities, right? Over lunch, Kitase theorizes that time might flow differently between the two worlds. When Maribel asks his age, he casually says he's 25. This shocks her. Owls age slower after all, but the moment is short-lived as she falls in love with the food. After lunch, it's time for the grand reveal. Kitase takes Maribel to see the cherry blossoms. The sakuras, in full bloom, leave the elf completely mesmerized. She starts imagining that spirits must be behind such beauty, and Kitase agrees, explaining how special this season is in Japan. He encourages her to fully experience this world while she's here. Blushing, Maribel tucks her hair behind her ear, a gesture that leaves Kitase a little speechless. The moment grows even sweeter when Maribel grabs his arm and pulls him along, walking together through the plaza. That night, Kazuhiko and Marie take a stroll to see the sakura blossoms. Marie is absolutely blown away, thinking these flowers are the most beautiful thing she's ever seen. She even imagines this is what a world without monsters would look like. Kazuhiko burst her bubble. Even without monsters, humans would just fight each other. Look at Japan. We're no eternal peace poster child. As he says this, he notices how beautiful Marie looks under the glowing sakuras and feels a little stunned. Marie, on the other hand, is suddenly serious. She asks what happens if she can't go back to her world. Kazuhiko casually suggests, "We could live together and travel around Japan. You know, see more spots like this." Marie secretly loves the idea. Back home, Kazuhiko asks if Marie wants to take a bath. Before she can answer, he starts rambling. "What if you go back to your world and we never see each other again?" But Marie doesn't hear a word. She's too busy panicking over the bath soap. She's convinced it's some kind of black magic because the water just keeps pouring out of nowhere. Kazuhiko, barely holding in his laughter, hands her some bath salts and says, "Try these. You'll feel like a princess." Marie, holding the salts, jokes, "I already feel like a noble." While she's humming in the bath, Kazuhiko chops onions for dinner, thinking how weird it is to see this side of her. In her world, she's battling dragons. Here, she's terrified of soap. Meanwhile, Marie is in the bath, thinking about Kazuhiko's offer to live together. Honestly, it doesn't sound bad. Marie steps out of the bath to the smell of dinner. Even before eating, she's already blown away by how good it looks. Kazuhiko serves her a simple dish, pork chop with sauce and an egg, but Marie acts like it's a 5-star meal. "This is the best thing I've ever eaten," she exclaims. Kazuhiko rolls his eyes but secretly feels proud. He mentions they can pack leftovers into lunchboxes, even for the other world. This leads to a weird conversation about how only lunchboxes seem to transfer between worlds. Watches, flashlights, and notebooks? No luck. When he shows her what a flashlight is, she's completely unimpressed. Marie guesses technology just doesn't work in her world, and maybe it's connected to how Kazuhiko brought her to Earth. She even starts wondering if he's on some kind of mission. They remember that if Marie goes back, they'll still wake up in the arcane dragon's lair. Kazuhiko pulls out a notebook to brainstorm. First idea: hold the dragon eggs hostage. They both quickly realize that's a terrible plan. An angry dragon mom would never stop hunting them. Marie points out that arcane dragons are smarter than humans and have endless mana thanks to their magical breath. These dragons aren't just big lizards, they're walking natural disasters. They can sink islands, erupt volcanoes, and have taken on humans and demons for ages. But Kazuhiko wants to know something less dramatic. Do dragons have hobbies? Like, what do they do for fun? Marie, confused, says dragons don't have personalities, but adds their scales are super valuable. Oh, and there's a weird rumor about dragons disguising themselves as humans to sneak into cities. She thinks it's nonsense, though. Kazuhiko, now curious, asks why a dragon would even bother going into a city. Marie shares a story about one hanging out in the port city of Osloid, doing nothing but lurking for a few days before leaving. Kazuhiko seems to figure something out and silently opens the fridge. Marie, meanwhile, plops down on the bed, finally appreciating how comfy it is. Kazuhiko, still looking serious, mentions Marie forgot something important. She brushes it off and suggests testing their new secret weapon to return to her world. To do that, she thinks they should hug, just like when they transferred the first time. As they hug, Marie feels Kazuhiko's warmth and dozes off. Next thing they know, they're back at the dragon's nest. Before they can celebrate, the arcane dragon returns, swinging her massive tail at them. They barely dodge it. Thinking fast, Kazuhiko introduces himself and Marie, apologizes for trespassing, and takes all the blame. He even says he forced Marie to come along. Marie, completely lost, wonders if Kazuhiko can speak dragon. She remembers his advice about staying calm and showing you're no threat. That's when Kazuhiko pulls out his genius peace offering, a bottle of liquor. He cracks it open, explaining it's a special brew from Osloid. The dragoness, speaking in a surprisingly feminine voice, is impressed that Kazuhiko knows what dragons like. She's curious about how they survived her fire earlier. If they explain, she'll let them go. They tell her everything, and she not only spares them, but even escorts them out of the cave. Before they leave, the dragoness shows them her eggs. Kazuhiko kneels to admire them, feeling the warmth she uses to protect them. Then, she sniffs the air and asks if he's hiding something. That's when Kazuhiko realizes it's the smell of the katsudon bento box he packed earlier. He awkwardly asks if the smell is bothering her, or if she's just interested in a snack. The dragoness eyes the tiny liquor bottle and katsudon, but admits the bottle's too small to even wet her lips. Plus, she's not comfortable in her current form. With a dramatic flex, she uses mana to spit out a blob of molten slime, which morphs into a stunning human-like woman. Now fully transformed, she demands the drink and food immediately. Kazuhiko tries to downplay the meal, saying it's just a simple katsudon, but the dragoness confesses she craves human food, something she can't make herself. Then, trying to save face, she says she just wants a little taste to satisfy her curiosity. Mari, utterly confused, asks what's going on. Kazuhiko smirks and says she just really wants the katsudon. The dragoness ups the stakes, offering one of her mana-infused scales in exchange. Knowing how rare these scales are, Kazuhiko agrees. The dragoness devours the katsudon like a starving dragon. Oh wait, she is one. To top it off, Kazuhiko pours her a glass of Osloid liquor. She downs it in one gulp and almost explodes with joy, but pretends it's no big deal to keep her dragon dignity intact. She even asks if humans eat this well every day. Kazuhiko laughs and says no, adding that this kind of food doesn't exist in her world. The dragoness half-jokingly says she might conquer a village just to get more. As Kazuhiko mentions they're scoring a dragon scale for the meal, Marie's jaw drops. She can't believe they're trading lunch for something priceless. But then the dragoness notices the second katsudon and demands it too. Kazuhiko hesitates since it belongs to Marie, but the dragoness offers another reward, a mysterious stone soaked in her blood. She explains it was created when her blue blood dripped onto it the day she laid her eggs. Marie nearly loses it, insisting they take the deal. That stone is worth a fortune. It's rumored to cure diseases. Kazuhiko agrees, and the dragoness happily wolfs down the second katsudon. With both deals struck, the dragoness allows them to leave her nest on one condition. They must return with 4 more obentos. As they leave, Marie is blown away by the fact that they traded katsudon for such rare treasures. The dragon bloodstone, rumored to cure any disease, is practically priceless. Kazuhiko suggests they could sell it or give it to someone in need, but Marie warns them that such an item could draw dangerous attention. If people discover where it came from, the dragoness's nest might be at risk. While walking, Kazuhiko suddenly stops, piecing together the dragon's history and the ruins. According to Marie, the dragon once chased thieves to an underground city, drove out the residents, and made it her nest. It would explain the ruins they're standing in and the city's mysterious downfall. Marie decides they'll figure out what to do with the treasures later. For now, they leave the dragon's nest, with Kazuhiko entrusted to keep everything safe. He worries about losing the items, but Marie promises not to get mad if that happens, though her tone says otherwise. As they continue their journey, Kazuhiko feels bittersweet, knowing their time together is running out. But Marie assures him she'll find a way to return to Japan with him. The next day, as Kitase returned from work, he couldn't quite wrap his head around how Maribel had ended up in his world. Yet here she was, living in his room. It was a bit of an adjustment for him. After all, having a beautiful girl with purple eyes and white hair sharing his space wasn't exactly ordinary. Maribel was glued to the TV again, trying to learn Japanese. Sometimes she looked so serious that Kitase joked the TV might start sweating under her intense gaze. When Kitase walked in, Maribel greeted him without missing a beat, welcoming him back like she'd been doing it all her life. But then she admitted that she hadn't even noticed him coming in. Kitase explained that he didn't want to interrupt her, especially since she looked so focused. He decided to tell her about his latest supermarket triumph. He had scored chicken at a great discount and was planning to make gyoza. The moment he mentioned it, Maribel tilted her head, clearly confused. She had no idea what gyoza was. As he started prepping the ingredients, Maribel suddenly blurted out a Japanese word. Kitase nearly dropped the knife. He stared at her in disbelief, and she grinned proudly, explaining that she was working on full sentences now and was determined to master Japanese soon. Kitase, still in mild shock, asked how soon she planned to become fluent. With a confident smile, she declared, 2 months. It was hard not to admire her determination. Later, Kitase brought her a drink, but instead of drinking it, Maribel leaned closer to him. She sniffed his suit and casually commented that it suited him really well. That left Kitase a blushing mess, and he quickly suggested she should smell the drink instead. Maribel's cheeks turned pink as she mumbled something about him being embarrassing. When dinner was ready, Maribel's reaction was pure gold. The moment she tasted the gyoza, her eyes lit up like fireworks. She practically inhaled her portion, declaring it the most delicious thing she'd ever eaten. Kitase reassured her there was plenty, so she didn't have to hold back. After the meal, she leaned back, completely satisfied. She praised Kitase's cooking and added that he should definitely cook for her again. He teased her, saying he would because she was a cute elf, but it hit him that she'd probably had one too many drinks. While Kitase washed the dishes, Maribel brought up a completely different topic: dragon scales and bloodstones. She asked where they were, but Kitase admitted he didn't know. He reassured her, though, that they'd get everything back once they returned to the other world. He explained how odd it was that every time he came back to this world, everything from the other world disappeared. His body, clothes, even his bag. Maribel, always the thinker, suggested there might be someone or something behind this strange phenomenon. Kitase agreed, vowing to get to the bottom of it one day. Maribel sighed dramatically, mentioning her magical research papers. She confessed that they were boring and seemed pointless. Kitase found the whole concept of magical research papers a bit strange, but he didn't say so out loud. Instead, he asked if she'd ever seen a magical stone. Maribel said no, they were just a legend. But then again, she pointed out, people had thought the human form of a dragon was a myth. And look how that turned out. Maybe the stone was real too. Kitase nodded and suggested they look for it someday. Maribel agreed, but made it clear that he'd be responsible for bringing lunch. It was night, and Kitase and Maribel were asleep in the same bed. Kitase had been going to bed earlier than usual lately, probably because of Maribel. She had mentioned learning Japanese in 2 months, which made him think she would be staying longer. The next day they arrived in another world. Maribel commented on the nice weather, and Kitase quickly said, "Let's go." When she asked about the ruin they were heading to, Kitase opened his map and replied, "It's called Ujok Peak Ruins." Maribel noticed it was quite far and would take time to reach. Kitase reassured her, saying they would get there quickly with his skills. "Hold on to me," he said, and they descended underground. "It's dark," Maribel remarked. Kitase explained they were traveling underground and it would be quick. Maribel enjoyed the speed, and Kitase shared that his skill worked like a train to cover long distances fast. As they traveled, Maribel noted that most of Kitase's skills seemed focused on battle. Kitase said they should learn skills for travel too, and that this one wouldn't work in high-energy areas or with too much weight. He added that Maribel wasn't heavy, so she didn't need to worry. Embarrassed, she asked him to let her down, which he did gently. Maribel sighed, commenting it felt like a long journey. Kitase reassured her it would take no more than 20 minutes. "I usually travel alone with this skill, so I'm not sure what to expect when traveling with someone else." Maribel, now nervous, clung to him. After some time, they arrived at Jal Shikar, a desert-like ruin with people searching for magical stones and raw materials. A fort had been built for protection, but no one had been able to extract stones for over 200 years. The place had become a ruin, though there was still a faint energy in the air, and the stones lay buried deep beneath the earth. Kitase shared what he knew, but Maribel was too tired from the heat. "Why did I come here? It's just sand, rocks, and ruins. I'm exhausted." Kitase nodded, acknowledging the long journey. "We've come this far. We just need to go a little further." With some hesitation, Maribel mustered up the courage and began walking, even though she really didn't feel like it. What could she do? The funniest part came a bit later, when Maribel tripped and fell flat on her face after walking a little further. Meanwhile, a child who was imprisoned with a strange blue-colored stone lying nearby. Eventually, Kitase and Maribel reached the location. Maribel looked around, realizing that from a distance it had looked like just a hill, but up close, it appeared more like abandoned houses. Kitase nodded and explained that it used to be a thriving community, a whole town. Maribel couldn't help but wonder if they'd really be able to find the magical stone. Kitase reassured her, saying that if it were that easy, the place would be filled with treasure hunters. He told her not to worry and that they would definitely find it. His confidence helped calm her, and a smile spread across Maribel's face. As they continued on, Kitase started feeling uneasy, as if they were being watched. Maribel noticed his tension and asked him what was wrong. Kitase shrugged it off, telling her it was nothing. They continued walking, distracted by the beautiful scenery around them. Eventually, they found a spot to rest, sitting down to eat. Maribel took a bite of Kitase's meal and immediately praised his cooking. She said that the meal was totally worth the long walk, and the stunning view made the moment even better. Curious about Kitase's abilities, Maribel asked him about his other skills. Kitase smirked and joked, asking if she wanted to see his stats. He admitted that he had never seen anyone else's stats either. Maribel, feeling a bit playful, agreed to show him hers, but warned him not to share it with anyone, as it was forbidden by her guild. Kitase raised an eyebrow and chuckled, remarking that her guild seemed to have some serious rules. His response was reflective of her own past and mindset. After dinner, they checked their statuses. Kitase's level was a remarkable 72, making him incredibly powerful. Maribel's level wasn't as high, and she explained that she focused more on studying and learning magic than on fighting. She added that her level didn't increase as quickly that way. Kitase nodded thoughtfully, telling her that a magician's job wasn't to fight all the time. "This grounds me," he said. Their role was to uncover ancient and mysterious things, which made spiritual magicians like her so special. During their conversation, Maribel discovered a new skill in Kitase's list that she hadn't seen before. She asked him about it and he gave her a brief explanation, which left her impressed. After chatting for a little while longer, they decided to continue their journey. Meanwhile, a few men were watching from a distance. They noticed Kitase and Maribel and whispered among themselves. One of them ordered that the two should be turned into food for the monsters and instructed someone to give the imprisoned child some water to drink. The poor child looked absolutely terrified. Back with Maribel and Kitase, Maribel decided to show off a bit by performing a magic trick. She summoned a fire lizard, which Kitase found rather cute. But then, Maribel took it a step further, evolving the lizard into a more fearsome version. She explained with a grin that it boosted her magic power a lot. Kitase was genuinely impressed and asked if she could store magic for later use. Maribel nodded, saying that she could, but didn't do it very often. Suddenly, a monster appeared, but Kitase swiftly jumped into the air and landed a powerful strike, ending the monster with a single blow. Afterward, Kitase told Maribel to step back a little, and almost immediately, 3 more monsters appeared. Once again, Kitase jumped into action, effortlessly taking them out. Meanwhile, 2 men were watching the scene unfold, amazed by the child's power. They marveled at his speed, noting that he had defeated the monster with just 1 attack. Another man then approached and said that he wanted to see. Using a technique called Steel Eye, he peered into Kitase's bag, discovering the magical scale and the bloodstone. He examined them carefully and remarked that he didn't know exactly what Kitase had, but he had never seen anything like it before. The men grew concerned and said to the boss that the child's level was very high and maybe they wouldn't be able to defeat him. The boss, however, remained calm and replied that they had someone else with them, so they shouldn't worry. At that moment, the child was brought forward and the boss turned to him. He told the child that he was their friend and needed to help them now. If the child didn't, he wouldn't give him his salary, leaving him hungry to die on his own. Meanwhile, Kitase continued running, and his magical lizard unleashed a fire attack, defeating the last monster. As they made their way forward, Kitase felt something strange again. He turned around and noticed that Maribel was also surprised. They both saw the child holding the magical stone, and then, in a shocking turn of events, the child used the stone to summon a massive monster. Both Kitase and Maribel froze in fear. Kitase observed that looking at the situation, it was clear that the child's level was extremely high and he was very powerful. They might not be able to defeat him. Kitase quickly told Maribel to run away, but before they could react, the monster attacked them, and they were both forced to return to the real world. Breathing heavily, they looked at each other, feeling a sense of relief. Maribel sighed and said that her heartbeat had been racing so fast. They both took a moment to relax and shared a cup of coffee. Maribel smiled, saying that it felt so good now. Kitase nodded and then shared something that had been bothering him. When they arrived, he felt like someone was watching them. Even while fighting the monster, he noticed people keeping an eye on them. He added that those people were probably searching for their bags and bodies right now. The conversation shifted to the strange child, and Kitase admitted that he was honestly confused about all of this. They changed the subject, and Maribel cheerfully said that Kitase should get ready for the office. But Kitase smiled and replied that he didn't have to go to the office today. He grinned and added that they should enjoy the weekend together. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Kazuhiro and Maribel are making the most of the weekend, since he has the day off. Maribel is really impressed by how clean and beautiful the rivers are, something she hasn't seen in her world. As they enjoy the peaceful scenery, Kazuhiro asks if she can hear the water spirits in the river. Maribel shakes her head, explaining that the spirits are too far away in this world, almost like they don't exist at all. Just then, a kitten appears in front of them, and Maribel is completely stunned. She's never seen a cat before, so this is a huge surprise for her. Cats don't exist in her world, so this is a big surprise. Kazuhiro warns her to be careful since cats are usually pretty cautious, but to their luck, the kitten seems to like Mariabelle, and they enjoy a peaceful moment together. Wanting to help Mariabelle learn the language, Kazuhiro takes her to the local library. It's a huge difference from the libraries in her world, where books are rare and so sensitive to sunlight that the places are dark and dusty. Here the library is bright, clean, and filled with books that are constantly being made. Kazuhiro figures he'll start her off with children's books for easy reading, but Mariabelle gets annoyed, insisting she's not dumb enough for those. Instead, he leads her to a section with beautiful illustrated books. She finds a book about kittens living their lives and telling funny stories, which happens to be one of Kazuhiro's favorite series. The book looks great, but Mariabelle can't read the symbols yet, so Kazuhiro promises to read it to her later. She picks out a few more books to enjoy at home. When they head to the checkout counter, Kazuhiro is surprised to see Ichijo, an old acquaintance of his. Ichijo is thrilled to see him again and is shocked by how beautiful Mariabelle is. Kazuhiro explains that Mariabelle is a distant relative from abroad, and they're borrowing the books to help her practice the language. This is a perfect moment for Mariabelle to practice her Japanese, so she immediately introduces herself to Ichijo. Ichijo does the same, but then Mariabelle asks Kazuhiro what Miss means, since that's what Ichijo called her. The elf thinks it's something rude, but Kazuhiro reassures her that it's a term of respect. Mariabelle decides to be respectful and tells Ichijo, "I'm pleased to meet you, Miss Ichijo," which leaves the librarian completely stunned. She's shaking for some reason, and Kazuhiro just chuckles, saying he gets it. He's seen this happen before. Ichijo starts to get a little suspicious, thinking Kazuhiro might be flirting with Mariabelle, but Kazuhiro insists that Mariabelle is just a very innocent girl and that their relationship is strictly platonic. Ichijo, still a little confused, asks if Kazuhiro would flirt with her if he had the courage. Kazuhiro quickly shuts that down again, explaining that he wouldn't want to ruin the friendship. Ichijo finally relaxes, understanding the situation, and hopes everything stays as it is. When it's time to check out, Kazuhiro hands over his documentation, and Ichijo is shocked to find out they both live in the same building. They never even realized it, which is a huge coincidence. Mariabelle is totally confused and wants to know what's going on, so Kazuhiro explains the situation. Just then, Ichijo suggests they all go out for a meal since they've been living so close to each other. Kazuhiro agrees, but Ichijo makes it clear she's mostly interested in becoming friends with Mariabelle, and that Kazuhiro might not be needed in this little plan. Kazuhiro explains to Mariabelle that Ichijo wants to be her friend and invited them both out for dinner. Mariabelle is super happy about it, and Kazuhiro is also glad that the elf will have her first real friend in Japan. That evening, while Kazuhiro is making dinner, Mariabelle asks if the book really moves like Kazuhiro promised earlier. Curious, she wants to see how it works, so he shows her the magic of the CD. The machine whirs to life, and Mariabelle is left totally amazed by the moving pictures. Mariabelle, in a way, believes it might be some kind of magic, but Kazuhiro tells her no, it's animation, and those movements are generated through many hand-drawn pictures that simulate real movements. Mariabelle is shocked, but after a while, Kazuhiro finishes preparing the dessert, while she continues watching the CD content. The elf is absolutely delighted with the taste of the dessert, so she suggests to Kazuhiro that they watch the movie from the beginning so he can explain it to her. He agrees, so he shuts everything down, because with less light, the experience is better. The movie itself has something to do with ancient Japan, and Kazuhiro explains to his elf that his grandfather lives in a place very similar to what she can observe. She'd like to visit that place someday, so Kazuhiro tells her that he would be happy to take her, as he will soon have a vacation. Mariabelle says it's fine, but only if it's not a bother. However, since Kazuhiro hasn't seen his grandfather in a long time, he'll take advantage of the opportunity to kill two birds with one stone, show Mariabelle the place, and visit his grandfather. After a couple of hours, the two of them have enjoyed the movie a lot, but the elf has enjoyed it the most, not hesitating to throw herself at Kazuhiro and tell him how incredible it was to see this thing. It was like looking at a book from inside the story, or stepping into someone's imagination. He tells her that, in fact, that's an accurate perception, and that in Japan, there are tons of anime, video games, and fun things for otakus. Of course, he warns her that once she learns the language, she'll have more fun than she can imagine. This serves as motivation for Maribel, as now she wants to learn Japanese more than ever. But the situation gets a little awkward given the perception they are in. However, in the end, she just asks to watch the movie once more. Clearly, Kazuhiro feels a little strange after such an experience, so he decides to prepare dinner right away. While he's cooking, something happens that, at least to me, is very scary: an earthquake. The good thing is that it doesn't last long, but suddenly Maribel runs to hug Kazuhiro because she doesn't understand what's going on. Obviously, she has nothing on her, so you can imagine the situation that ensues. Luckily, Kazuhiro feels proud of himself for having kept his composure like a champion. After a while, Maribel has completely recovered from the embarrassment of what happened and quickly apologizes to Kazuhiro. He tells her it's fine and that he should have warned her in advance that earthquakes or tremors are common in Japan. The good thing is that the situation is resolved immediately. Finally, it's time to eat. Kazuhiro has prepared some curry with very good spices, and even though it's a bit spicy, Maribel can't stop eating because it's so delicious. Kazuhiro mentions that in some desert areas of the world, they use a wide variety of spices. But now that the word desert has been mentioned, Maribel just remembered the monster from before. They've also forgotten about that problem today. She feels a bit lazy because it will take a long time to leave that place safe and sound. But Kazuhiro tells her that from time to time, it spawns in a different place, although he doubts that will be the case this time. The elf notices that he seems a bit unconcerned. Maribel warns him that just because they were able to come to this world alive, it doesn't mean the lives from the dream world don't matter. The protagonist tells her he is well aware of that, but he doubts the danger is still present in that place. Moreover, they have the advantage that once they return, they'll be able to use the teleportation ability. When they come back, they can escape immediately. But now that they think about it, they are a bit worried about the boy from before. The poor kid was clearly very scared and was being forced to summon the monster. Everything points to the fact that the bandits have him captive. So, Kazuhiro would like to help him somehow. He proposes coming up with a plan to do so, and Maribel agrees. However, now that she remembers, she had read in the records that creatures from the beast race of cats were experts in using magical stones. Since she couldn't see his face very well, she's not sure if that's the case, but it's likely that he's one of them. Later, in bed, Kazuhiro is reading the book they brought from the library, and he starts reflecting on how much his life has changed since Maribel has been by his side. Before, he was only interested in the world of his dreams, and when he lived with his grandfather, he didn't care about the landscape outside, no matter how beautiful it was. But now that he's with her, he's sure that seeing that landscape would mean something very different compared to back then. For now, all that's left is to sleep and see what the dream world has in store for them. Kazuhiro wakes up in his dream world, only to find Maribel shouting in frustration about how she couldn't listen to the story from the book because she fell asleep. After greeting each other, Maribel points out the sand, saying it looks incredible. Kazuhiro glances at it and tells her that it might be because of a monster's attack. As they get ready, they bump fists to officially form a party. Maribel smiles, saying this is the first time she has ever formed a party with him. Kazuhiro admits he doesn't get many chances to form parties. Maribel teasingly points out that it's because he's too shy for that kind of stuff. Kazuhiro fires back, saying she's not the one to talk. With the party now established, they can communicate with each other even when they are far apart, and with that, their adventure truly begins. And, well, this is how today's episode ends. If you've made it to the end, comment, ELF, and I'll see you in the next video.